Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert Camo, the fantasy football counselor. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 quarterbacks, big names, by the way, that I would never, ever draft. Just would never put them on my roster. And I got a bonus one as well. And there's a ton of quarterbacks I won't throw on my roster, but there's 3 in particular here that you'd be like, wow, those are some pretty big names. Why wouldn't you want to throw them on your roster, Joe? So I'm going to go into that and the reasons why I would never draft these guys. Big show here today. We are so close to fantasy football, and I could smell it. I could taste it. It's almost here. I'm beyond excited now. We're just past the mid-May point, and the depth charts have aligned. The draft is done. We are now getting into that spirit now, okay? So if you guys want to dominate your leagues, listen. Get the 16-round draft solution, the first ever and only video training. It's going to help you guys crush your leagues. Guys, scrap the draft kits, scrap the cheat sheets. This will help you crush your league, get a massive competitive advantage. Sleepers, breakouts, dynasty players, everything you need at thefantasyfootballcounselor.com. Get the 16 rounds 2021. And if you guys get it now, there's a link here below on YouTube as well. If you get in now, there's a chance to be in the Listeners League, guys. I'm going to select 12 people. There's going to be a draw in June, selecting 12 people out of the people that have pre-ordered 16 rounds to be in the Listeners League. I'm going to be hosting a draft for a chance to win $500. So it's a win-win, guys, okay? So 16-round draft solution, get it now for a chance to be in the Listeners League for a chance to win $500 and bragging rights and all that fun stuff. Also, manscaped.com. If you have not done so yet, go treat yourself. Manscaped.com. This is the ultra smooth package here. They've also got the lawnmower 4.0 right here behind me, available right now at manscaped.com. If you guys want to save some money on your purchase, treat yourself. Father's Day is around the corner as well. Manscaped.com. Use promo code SHOWERLINE, save 20%. That's SHOWERLINE, guys. Save 20%. Manscaped.com. Go do that right now. Great products. The perfect gift. Groom around that sensitive area and not worry about getting nicked and cut. Use promo code SHOWERLINE. Also, link here below for that as well. All right. Leave a thumbs up as well. Comment below. Love to hear which quarterback you would avoid. Just comment the name of the quarterback there that you guys would avoid. Love to hear it. All right, the first guy I would avoid here, and you're like, oh, Joe, you're crazy. How could you do it? How could you say it? But the guy I'm talking about is Pat Mahomes. I mean, that's for pretty much obvious reasons. And the biggest reason is that I go robust RB early, and this guy is a big name, and he's always coming off, in the first 3 rounds. Now, is he worth a 3-round pick? That's the question. So, looking at him last year, finished 4th. This guy was being drafted in the 3rd round in all drafts. Let me repeat that to you again. 2nd to 3rd round. ADP back in 2020, every single draft I did, right? And where did he finish? He finished 4th. So, pretty respectable kind of where he finished. I personally waited for Josh Allen, and he finished ahead of him. I waited for guys like Russell Wilson, finished a little bit below him. But Russell Wilson was winning one of my leagues. So was Ryan Tannehill, who finished at 6th and 7th at the position in 2020. I didn't have to pay a 2nd or 3rd round pick. I got him around 6, 7, or 8. Great value. And they finished very close to where he finished. So we're going to talk a little bit about quarterback draft strategy here as well. You got to anchor your team with an ace quarterback, but you don't have to overpay. Okay. So Pat Mahomes, again, finishing 4th. In 2020, in 2019, finishing 7th, okay? Having that big year in 2018, finishing number 1. Now, last year, finishing 4th. Remember that. He was 5th in attempts, okay? Number 2 in yards, which is pretty good. His interception to touchdown ratio, 38-6. Not bad. So we know he's still got, more ceiling. He could hit that 50 touchdown year again. Yes, he's got the ability to do so. But again, will I invest in him? No, not that reason alone. The early draft pick is reason he will never be on my team. Now, the year he broke out and had the 50 touchdowns, if you got 16 rounds, you had him as your backup quarterback. I think we were drafting him in the 10th round. So we were always ahead of the curve, guys. We're always ahead of the curve, drafting or skating to where the puck is going or drafting to where the puck is going in this case. Pat Mahomes is a big no-no for me. And again, if you want to invest a 2nd or 3rd or 4th round pick, that's up to you. But I don't do that, okay? And I think there's other guys with higher ceiling this year, which you got to listen to sleepers, breakout shows, and subscribe. If you haven't clicked subscribe, guys, it takes 2 seconds. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on Spotify, click the subscribe button. If you're on iTunes, click the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds. And we got some great episodes coming your way. And of course, guys, please leave a thumbs up. And if you're here on YouTube video, and a 5-star review. I'm asking for a lot now, guys, if you're on iTunes, okay? Second quarterback here, I would never, ever draft, never, ever have on my team. And this is obvious because I've been kind of promoting this and touting this the entire last season is Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson finished 10th last year amongst quarterbacks and was drafted second. Guys, let me repeat this. Was drafted second round all last year. So all last year, the mainstream were saying, hey, you got to draft Lamar Jackson second round. Did probably I probably did about 300 mock drafts last year, seriously. And it was like he was coming off in the second round. I saw him go back and forth. Sometimes Pat Mahomes would come off in the second round last year, and sometimes Lamar Jackson would come off in the second round. But typically it was Lamar Jackson ahead of him. Why? It's because he had a good 2019 year, a sensational 2019 year. And everybody predicates their drafting position based on the year before. So he had a 415-point 2019 year, right? So everyone's like, yeah, he's the best quarterback, this and that. And I was saying, you know what? He could be risk of injury. He didn't get injured, fortunately, which is good. He didn't get injured. But, a decline is happening, but a pretty significant decline from 415 points to 332. That's almost a 100-point decline, right? So to me, it's like, that's a big drop. I would not invest a second-round pick. So why wouldn't I draft him again this year? Well, he finished 10th last year. His ADP this year, he's currently sitting number 4, so it's going to be pretty high. It's going to be like 3rd, 4th round, depending, right? Depending on if you have a Baltimore Ravens fan on your team, if they like Lamar Jackson, if they're invested in him in sports cards, whatever. If you're invested in Lamar Jackson, you're probably going to draft him if you believe in him. But again, I'm not sold on the hype. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's on the caliber of your Russell Wilsons. I think he's got a competitive nature, and I think he's got some receivers this year. But here's the thing. Let's take a look at something that bothers me, okay? When I look at a quarterback, I look at him running, okay? And I don't mind Josh Allen running, but I have a problem with Lamar Jackson running, okay? I look at his attempts. Now, 159 attempts in 2020, 176 in 2019, 147 attempts in 2018. He rushed for 1,000 yards. Let me repeat this. 1,000 yards last year on 159 attempts and 7 rushing touchdowns. The year before, 176 attempts, 1,206 yards, 7 touchdowns. When my quarterback, especially a guy I'm investing a second-round pick in, is rushing this many times, more than, not like rushing yards-wise, I think he was number 5 amongst running backs in 2019. He was 1,200 yards. Like, how many running backs run for 1,200 yards? Not a lot, right? In fact, that was his 2019 year. So he had about 1,000 yards in 2020. So let's take a look at running backs that rushed over 1,000 yards. There's only 8. Let me repeat this. 8 running backs that ran over 1,000 yards in 2020. Okay? Now he had 1,200 yards. You guys get the point. But listen, 2019, he had 1,200 yards, right, rushing. That year, amongst running backs, let me pull this up here. Let me pull it up here. Actually, let me go back to 2020 here, regular season. So yards, like I said, 8. Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, James Robinson, Dave Montgomery, they rushed. Now, going back to 2019, like I said, Lamar had 1,200 yards. So I'm going to pull this up here and take a look at running backs that had that much, okay? When I look at rushing yards, there's only, 5 running backs that ran over 1,200 yards in 2019. So the point I'm trying to make here, I want to emphasize this and draw it out. I don't really draw out points. I kind of get right to the point, is that he is running more than running backs. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. He is rushing more than running backs. He's running more than running backs, okay? That's a problem to me with my quarterback. I'm going to cringe every time he runs out. And again, he's not built like he's fast. He's elusive. Like he could dodge tackles. He's good. Like he can run away from people, but he's not built like a running back. Okay. So I'm going to cringe, and I'm worried about a potential injury for my second or third round pick. That reason and that reason alone, I'm not going to draft him. Okay. Third guy. And I got a bonus guy here. This guy's pretty obvious. And I remember going back a couple years ago, and it's so funny, man, hindsight, right? Like what ends up happening is I tell people, don't draft this guy. This guy's better than him. And I look at the scenario and I study everything, and people still don't listen. And the mainstream keep doing what they got to do, and the magazines get printed out in the masses and they on the newsstands and stuff like that. Everybody said Baker Mayfield was better than Josh Allen. I remember doing a post. I got to pull that up. If you go to my Instagram, I bet you it's up there. It's probably a couple years ago. I got to go back and dig it up. I said that Josh Allen is better than Baker Mayfield, and people are like, oh, you're nuts. You're crazy. Why do you have a channel? Why do you do this? And then now, if I said to you, Josh Allen's better than Baker Mayfield, they'd be like, yeah, obviously, Joe. And that's the case here. So Baker Mayfield's my third guy. I would never draft him. Finished 17th last year, 17th again this year. And going to that quarterback strategy, which I promised I said I'd talk about, is you got to anchor your team with an ace quarterback and back him up with an upside quarterback. Now, Baker is not an upside quarterback. I don't get excited about Baker Mayfield, right? I'd rather have a backup of like a Trevor Lawrence or a Matt Ryan who's even safer, right? Or a guy that has a higher ceiling. Like Baker Mayfield just doesn't excite me. I'm not sold. What you see is what you get. He could have a better year this year than 17, but not a guy I'm excited about. But again, the mainstream loved this guy. They were just a top 4, top 5 quarterback a couple years ago, and I was like, no, Josh Allen's a little bit better. And they didn't believe me. So either way, Baker Mayfield's another guy I would never draft. And finally, this guy, not that he's really high up in the rankings, but some people may want to consider him as a backup, is Taysom Hill. This guy's a backup. He's part of a quarterback committee at all times. Not a true quarterback in his own right, starting quarterback in his own right. I'm not sold on him. If he comes in and plays, I think it's going to affect Alvin Kamara's value. Now we're talking running backs. Go back and check the 3 running backs I'd ever draft. And I'm going to be doing top 10 shows pretty soon. But again, Taysom Hill, not a guy I trust, not a guy I would draft, not even as a backup. He may have some big games, get some rushing touchdowns, probably hinder Alvin Kamara's value a little bit near the red zone in regards to rushing touchdowns, but another guy I would never touch. Now, there's a bunch of other guys I wouldn't touch here at the quarterback position. Won't get into all of them, but these are 3 that I had to come out here and tell you. You're going to have to pay too high for Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes. You're paying on a name. Lamar is like 1 snap away from a snap, literally from an injury. I don't trust the amount of times he rushes out. It's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, even if you look at Josh Allen, a rushing guy, let's take a look here. So I'm going to go to 2020, and I'm going to look at Josh Allen. I'm going to filter here by attempts. 159 attempts for Lamar Jackson. Even Cam Newton, a guy that rushed the ball, 137, 133 for Kyler Murray. And Josh Allen, this is what I mean, 102 attempts. It's still bad, but like I don't feel like that's an extra, 159 and 102. He's running out an extra 57 times. 57 times. Every time you run out, you're putting your body at risk. So I think Josh Allen has a good balance of passing and rushing. And I like how Josh Allen throws for 4,500 yards, whereas Lamar only throws for 2,700. I like a quarterback that throws the ball a lot, gets those passing touchdowns, and has a nice blend of the rushing touchdowns as well. And that's where I like Josh Allen. He's got a nice mix of both of them, okay? To give you an example, Russell Wilson's pretty good as well, 4,200 passing yards. And again, he gets his 2 rushing touchdowns. He gets his rushing attempts. Only 83 rushing attempts for Russell. He's throwing the ball a little bit more because he got the 40 passing touchdowns. So this is last year. So again, I like a little bit of mix. I don't like more rushing than passing. I like a solid mix, okay? So there you have it, guys. 3 quarterbacks I would never draft. Make sure you guys comment below. Let me know who you guys would never draft. Subscribe and get the 16-round draft solution right now. And again, Father's Day is around the corner. Manscaped.com. Use promo code SHOWERLION. Thank you, guys. Way more episodes coming here on the #1 Fantasy Football Podcast. Click that subscribe button, and Fantasy Football is almost here, guys. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.